Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to the third part of the co-op quest. In today's video, we'll talk about the application stage, which basically refers to making a resume, making a cover letter, networking, using that network to get referral to companies, all of that stuff in this kind of domain. So in the last video, we covered the pre-application stage, which meant creating your profile, how to create a profile, how to build personal projects, where do you learn those skills from, and all of that stuff. And the next stage in this whole journey of getting a co-op is just applying to a job, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, just a small disclaimer before I actually start. Now, this resume that I'll show you would work for software developers 100%, but I'm not really sure if it would work outside of this domain. So I can't speak. I've given this disclaimer in the last video as well, but I can't speak for people in other domains because I haven't tried that for myself. But I can speak for software developers here. So if you're a software developer looking for a co-op opportunity, you're at the right place. You're going to learn a lot today. It's going to be a full jam-packed video. And just stick around to the very end again, because I usually tend to make long videos because I cover so much. I try to cover as much as I can, go as deep as I can. So yeah, just stick around, just hang out with me, just bear with me, and we will be able to cover a lot of stuff today. Now, I've divided this video into a couple of parts so that we can cover all of the stuff we have. And we'll start off by talking about a resume where I'll show you my own resume, and we'll compare that resume to like the best practices. So I'll tell you what I did, which worked for me, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and we'll create a OneNote document that I'll share with you guys later on in the description of this video. But yeah, we'll essentially create that. I'll also share my resume in the description just in case you need some reference, or maybe you want to base your resume off of that. You're most welcome to. So yeah, I'll hop onto my computer and let's get started with the first part, and then we'll talk about the second one. So here we are on my computer, and as you can see, I've created this OneNote document right now that says co-op resume tips, right? I have no idea why this is Sunday, December 26, 2021, 9:56 a.m., but it's just recent. I just created it right now. So let's get started, right? Now, before writing stuff here, I'd like to show you my own resume, and we'll go through that quickly first, and then I'll break it down into small parts so we can understand what's going on, right? So this screen here is my own resume. So it has my name on top, has my address and stuff, couple of links here. It says computer programming and analysis at Seneca. And then here's my work experience. So that's what I'm doing currently at RBC. That's what this whole whole series is actually based off of. And then that's some other job experience. I didn't put all of my job experiences here because it's usually mostly part-time stuff. I'll talk about all of that later. Right now we're just going through it, like just giving it a quick glance so you know what we'll be talking about. And here's my technical skills, as you can see. Then I have a couple of projects. Now again, it's 2 pages. Some people would be skeptical about making it 2 pages. I'll talk about all of that stuff later. The certification section is some hackathons and volunteering, and here's some other initiatives or extracurricular activities. Doesn't matter what you call this, but yeah, that's pretty much like an overview of my resume. But now let's break it down, right? Let's break it down into some parts. So let's start off. How do you start your resume, right? So we'll start off with talking about the start of your resume. So how do you start your resume, right? So usually this is pretty straightforward. This is probably the easiest part of the resume because all you put here is your name, like as you can see here, your name, your address. It's not the full address, but it doesn't matter. It's just meant to give you a general picture of where I live, but it's not meant to give you like the exact unit number anyways. And then there's my phone number. So it's basically your contact information and your name, so that if they like you, they should, as a candidate, they should know how to contact you and get in touch with you, right? So that's my phone number, that's my email, that's my LinkedIn, GitHub, and dev post. Now, if you're wondering, okay, what's LinkedIn, what's GitHub, what's DevPost, I've covered all of that in the last video, so you could go and you could go and watch it. You get to know how to create a LinkedIn profile, GitHub profile, DevPost profile if you want. But essentially, the start of your resume is you put these things there. So you put your name, and then you basically have your address. Again, this doesn't have to be that detailed, so I'll just specify that here. So doesn't have to be the full address. The next thing you put is your phone number, email address, and I'd say your important links or something. So these links can be LinkedIn, could be your GitHub, could be your DevPost. That's your first part of the resume. So that's how you start off your resume. Now, again, as I mentioned before, that's probably the easiest part that you have. And I'll actually enclose this with a rectangle, just so it looks cleaner. This is aesthetics. I think the rectangle's black. Never mind. So that's the start of your resume, right? Now, the next step would be your education. Now, this order, some people think that it doesn't matter, but I personally believe that it matters, because I've attended a couple of workshops from CIBC, RBC, all these companies. They always stress on the fact that we need your education to be on top. Now, let me tell you the reason behind this, right? Now, imagine you are a recruiter and you're looking at my resume for a co-op, right? So you open the resume and you don't have enough time. So they just get like 5 or 6 seconds to scan through your resume. So they don't have enough time to read the whole thing anyways. So they just give it a quick glance and they see your education on top, which is really beneficial, as it tells them that, okay, so this guy started in January 2022 and he's going to graduate in December 2024. So is he even eligible? And it helps them think about your eligibility, because I don't know about other schools, but for example, at Seneca, you can't really do a co-op in your last term. So you have to have a term of schooling before you actually graduate. So the last semester that you could do a co-op in is basically the 5th semester for me, because you have to do a semester of studying before you graduate. So that's one thing. And then how do you structure this, right? So you put the name of your degree, diploma, whatever. So if you're doing a degree, this would be bachelor's degree in computer science or something like that. Then you put in your school. So I put in Seneca here, Toronto and Ontario, so you can put all of this stuff here. Then you put in your start date and the end date. Now this is super important. This is something that a lot of recruiters have stressed upon in the workshops that I've attended, is that you need to have an expected end date. Now, why is that? Again, it's because they need to evaluate if you're even eligible for getting a co-op. What if you're just applying your last semester, right? You're not eligible for getting a co-op in that case. So this helps them know that, okay, this guy is actually eligible and it is worth it to read the rest of his resume. It's super important to put in your end date here, or like the expected end date here. Then you have this section, completely unnecessary. Like you could put in your stuff here if you want. If you're not comfortable with this, you don't have to do this. It's not a mandatory thing to do. It's just something that I've done by my choice. So let's document this down, right? So you need, so that's your start of the resume. Now let's talk about, then you come to education section. You have to keep a couple of points in mind here. So you mention name of credential that you will get, and then you name of school, then you put your name of school, and then start and end date. And then I'll make a point here saying that end date is super important, right? So these are some things that you need to keep in mind when you are putting in your education. So that's good. Now we've covered 2 parts of the resume. Congratulations. Now we can move on to the next one. Now, for me, the next part is work experience here. But it could be something else. I've seen a lot of people put technical skills here, and then they come with the work experience. Now again, this is a personal preference, but what I've heard from a lot of recruiters is that they don't really like the technical sections at the top, because we all know that we could just go and lie up there, right? We could just straight up lie and say that, oh, I know like 10 languages, I've worked with I know like 10 technologies and stuff like that. You could put in as much stuff as you want. There's no proof that you actually know all of that. But what they are looking for is actual proof that you know what you're talking about. You know the stuff that you have specified on your resume, right? That's what they are looking for. So I personally like to start with work experience. And so I've put work experience just right after education. Now, a lot of you might have this question at this point that, okay, you put in your site reliability engineer developer at RBC, but there's a lot of people that are applying to co-ops for the first time, right? So they don't really have this whole block of technical experience. They just have maybe part-time jobs, and maybe not even that, right? It is possible that you have never even done a part-time job before, and I'm not denying that possibility, right? What do you do in that case? I'll come to that. But right now, let me talk about my resume over here. So what I've done here is that I've put in site reliability engineering developer, RBC, Toronto. I've put in like my start date, estimated end date here, and then I've written a lot of stuff here about what I did. Now, you need to pay attention to this part here. I could say that worked with Python, worked with Ansible, used Docker, OpenShift. I'm done. But does that really give the recruiter a good overview of what I did? So what I'm trying to do here is give the recruiter a whole, you could say like a summary of who I am without even telling the recruiter what technical skills I know in this section over here. So I'm trying to tell them that, okay, I was able to achieve this using these technologies to do this. So before going forward, I would like to write this down, and in the work experience section, make sure you write your experience using the STAR method. Now, a lot of people might have this question, what is the STAR method? Now, it is a really common method. It's mostly used for answering interview questions, but it is also used for making a robust and a solid resume. Now, STAR, right? Let me write what STAR stands for. So the S stands for situation. Situation. So S stands for situation. Now, in this case, for example, I've said that, okay, the situation is, I haven't specified the situation here because like it would have been too long, but you could if you want. STAR method is basically something that would help you structure your work experience or like an interview answer in a very good manner so that the recruiter knows what you're talking about. So S stands for situation. I'll tell you how to structure it. S stands for situation, T is task, A is action. So A is action and R is result. Let's start off. So if I ask you a question saying, I saw you worked at RBC as a developer, what did you do there, right? Your normal answer could be something like, I did a lot of stuff. I used Python, I used Catchpoint, I used Ansible, I worked with a lot of teams. You could answer something like that. But that isn't a really good answer, right? Because, okay, you worked with a lot of teams, okay, you used Python, but what did you do with that? That's what they're interested in, right? Were you even able to accomplish anything with the team? So you start off with the situation and be like, okay, now I'm just taking an example. You could modify this, change this according to whatever your use case is, but I'm just giving you an example. So let's start at S, which is the situation, right? So the situation is that there's a lot of manual work going on in the team and they wanted someone to automate that process for them. You could go in a lot of details if you want as well. Again, this is just an example. What's the task? Now, I was assigned with creating these automations for the team so that all of these manual tasks are automated. Now, specify whatever manual task you're talking about. I'm just giving you an example here, so I'm not really specifying stuff, but that's what STAR is about, right? You go into the situation in detail. So you tell them that this is the situation, a lot of manual work is being done in the company regarding like whatever, and I was tasked with creating these automations for my team or for multiple teams so that these tasks are now automated. That's the T, that's the task. Now, what is the action that you took, which is the A in the STAR, right? So the action is that I used Python to create some scripts, which I then ran using Ansible, and using Ansible, I scheduled those jobs to run every morning at 8:30, for example, which was able to build this automation that I need, or anything like that, right? And what was the result? The result was that everyone's life was a lot easier. They, instead of going in manually and doing all of the tasks, they were able to use the automation that I created, and it basically reduced their time to half or cut down 90% of their manual effort. So something like that. That's your situation, task, action, result, workflow. So what I've tried to do here in my resume, and this is what I'd suggest you do with your resume, is that whatever you do, just tell them how you did it. Just tell them what was the problem, how you managed to solve it, what was the result on that. Instead of just telling them that you use Python, how did you use Python? You use Dynatrace Catchpoint? Okay, how did you use that? You use Ansible. How did you use Ansible? So you used all of these platforms. How did you use that? So everything that you specify, just give them a reason, like just give them a use case of how you managed to use that software or that technology, right? Now, this was if you have technical experience like here, right? But what if you don't have technical experience? You can't really say that I use Python in some place because you don't have work experience. Now, there's this one point that I need to make that's completely optional if you want to do it. But some of the recruiters have said that if you have built a project with, like, as a research in your college, or maybe you've done some other stuff that you think could be put in experience, it doesn't have to be job experience. It could be other technical experience that you have. You could also put it here. Like, you could, maybe you worked for some professor or something with his automation. You could put it here. That's fine. And then that's one thing. But what if you don't even have that, right? You could put in your part-time experience because there's this thing called transferable skills. Now, what I mean by transferable skills is that, for example, in my job here, it says guest services ambassador at Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, for example. Now, what I do here is just talk to a lot of people, solve their problems, help them out, help the guests out, talk to people from different countries, some people don't even know how to speak English. So, like all of these communication skills that I learned have helped me so much at the actual work that I do as a developer. So these are all transferable skills. That means like it doesn't directly relate to my job, but like it helps me in some way or the other. So you can put in your part-time experience and your work experience. Now, what if you don't even have part-time work experience? Again, I said that is possible, right? We'll talk about that later. Like that section comes somewhere down there. So we'll talk about that. So if you have stuff, put in the work experience. If you don't have stuff, you could skip this part, jump straight down to the technical skills. Now, as I said, this is a personal preference. I could have put technical skills after projects, but I just decided to do it before. If you want to put it after projects, you're most welcome to. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, so we talked about the STAR approach in work experience, and one more point that I will mention here is the idea of transferable skills. So allows you to put in your part-time experience as well, right? So you can put in that as well. Now that's for our work experience. Now let's talk about skills. It's a pretty straightforward section. I don't think I'll write anything on OneNote for that because this is not really much to talk about. I'll just go over this super quick so this video doesn't go over 2 hours. So yeah, my technical skills, I just mentioned my programming languages that I know. Now again, I'm only mentioning stuff that I am good at. I'm not specifying Java here, even though I've worked with Java. I just don't want to put everything on it just to put more stuff. So this is one more thing that I realized when I was applying to co-ops at the start, I was just putting everything that I could think of. So stuff like JSON, XML and stuff. So if you're technical, then you probably understand that these things are just a part of something else. These are not really separate technologies by themselves, right? So I'm not putting every minute details of the stuff that I know. I'm just putting like the big abstracted layer of the stuff. I'm not really going in depth because for me personally, if I see a resume that's trying to exaggerate what they know, I can tell that they don't really know that much, but they're just trying to exaggerate whatever they know so that it looks like they know a lot. You don't have to do that. Just be authentic, right? So I say that, okay, I know these programming languages. I made a section called development and just put in some web development stuff here. A section called tools, put in some of the tools that I know and how to use them. Put in some database, data science, machine learning stuff here. You could it doesn't have to be the same category. You could modify and you could put in your own, but just made a table so it's easier for them and it's easier for the ATS. I'll talk about the ATS later, don't worry, to parse through this resume, right? So that's the skills section. Won't talk too much about that. Next is projects for me. So now projects, right? This is probably one of the most important sections that you have on your resume because it shows that you have done something with what you mentioned here. So you know what you're talking about. Now this is especially important for those people that don't have this work experience down in their resume. If you don't have this, projects is what will get you through. This is what they asked me in my interview as well. Like, oh, how did you build these projects? What technologies did you use? Why did you use this technology and not that technology? Why did you use this tech stack, not that tech stack? They need to know. Don't copy these projects from your friend, from your classmate, from like a YouTube video. Make them yourselves. You need to know what you did. You need to know why you did those things that you did in order to have a successful interview in the future, in order to make it look good on your resume. It doesn't have to be a high-tech like AI platform that you create. It could be basic but authentic, something you created for yourselves, something you've done on your own. It's your own project. You spent some time doing it. You've used a tech stack is all they need to see. So project section, right? If I talk about the project section, it's very important projects actually. So you start off with mentioning the name of project and technologies used. Then you basically also provide a link to GitHub repo, and if it's a website, you could optionally provide other links. So like provide a link to your GitHub repo. If there are other links, you could provide that as well. Then give a brief description of your project and what it does. These 3 things, just do these 3 things and you should be good for projects. Just do this for each of the projects. So like for example here, let's take Next.js Museum Web App. So this uses Next.js, React.js, REST APIs. You have a GitHub link here. You have the website link that are both clickable, as you can see. I've underlined them because you need to underline them. Like even here, I underlined them because it shows people that it's a link, and it sort of they are able to distinguish between links and the text that you have. So as you can see, also just talking about the text and like the link stuff, I just want to point out this one thing here, is that as you can see here, this resume is very easy to read because I've separated the colors. There's a font size difference here. It's very easy to go through it and read. As you can see, I've bolded out the technologies. You don't want it to be super cramped so that no one can read it. You don't want it to be super small. You have to make it clear. You have to make it easy to read so that it's easier for them to scan through it and see if you're an eligible candidate for that position, basically. So yeah, that's my project. So you just like put the name, put the technologies that you use, brief description, links. The next section is certifications, completely optional again. A lot of people don't put this. It doesn't matter, but personally I put it because I do think that it kind of shows that you are dedicated, that if you start something, you're able to finish that. So if you start a certification, you're able to finish it. You're able to finish a course if you start that course. It just shows that you're consistent. I've linked to all the credentials here. This is completely optional. I'll not really write this in the OneNote again because it's optional and it is customizable. So it's not really like a holy grail that you need to follow in this case. So for me, I just put in the name of the certification, the issuer for that certification, you could say, and like a credential here that you can click on. Next section, super important. Now, this is the most important section actually if you don't have work experience under your belt. Hackathons and volunteering. Doesn't have to be hackathons, but volunteering should be there. Hackathons and volunteering, if you have both, it's just perfect then. So if I talk about the hackathons and the volunteering section, this is almost the same as job experience section. The only difference is that this is not like a job experience, but this is more of other kind of experience. So what you're trying to do here is also use STAR approach if applicable. Sometimes you don't really need to use it because like it could be really self-explanatory, so you don't have to really use it every single time. Sometimes you could. Then here you have hackathons and volunteering. So for me, I've put in the stuff like the name of your hackathon, or maybe like your volunteering, what did you do there, name of the role, where did you do it, when did you do it, and then what did you do, right? So basically 3 W's, what, where, and when are important. So put in all of that stuff here. Like as you can see, I've put in the technologies and stuff that I've used to create this and create the product in my hackathon. For volunteering, and I'm just mentioning what I did there. Very basic stuff, very easy to implement. Last section on my resume is other initiative, could be called extracurriculars, whatever you want. Just could name it anything. But basically this has bullet points as to what I did apart from hackathons, apart from projects, apart from the work experience that I have, apart from volunteering. What did I do? What else did I do? This could be your achievements. This could be things that you just do for fun, but you managed to like get something in that. Anything, right? So for me, it says like first prize in case competition held at RBC, completed Hacktoberfest, participated in this competition, built a YouTube channel, which you're currently watching. By the way, like, subscribe, and share if you think this is beneficial. Created the Global Student Hub. Then again, I usually do all of this marketing at the end, but I could just do it right now so that we skip this charade at the end. So you could join Global Student Hub. I'll link to it in the description. It's just a community of students. It's basically targeted at international students, but you're most welcome to join because it could be really beneficial for domestic students as well. So marketing's over. Let's just talk about the resume again. So yeah, other initiative section. So other initiatives, talk about achievements, could talk about hobbies if you want. That's a spelling mistake here. Could talk about hobbies if you want. And yeah, just like things apart from your work experience, volunteering, and hackathons, basically. So this is what I've talked about. Now, why is this important, right? Because this gives the recruiter an overview of your personality. So you might be the best tech guy out there, but do you have a life outside of computer science? Do you do other stuff as well? Do you like to participate in stuff? Are you even interested in computer science? Do you do things outside of work, outside of school, just for fun, just because you like doing those things? This actually speaks a lot to them. This shows them that you do things that are different from this. Basically makes you stand out from the other candidates that are just doing tech stuff, because it shows that you have the ability to do other things as well, right? So yeah, that was pretty much it for my whole resume. It was a long one, but this is basically all you need to do. There's a lot of other stuff that we are going to talk about right now, so the video is not over, so just don't quit yet. This is just the first part, I'd say, where we're talking about the resumes. There's still a lot of random topics that I need to talk about, that I need to cover. But yeah, I'll upload this resume to the description. I'll link to it in the description if you need to look at it. I'll also put this document. There's not a lot. This is just documenting what we talked about, but this is essentially like a notes part of this whole resume section. So if you need to refer to what we talked to, you could just look at this document. I'll put this as well in the resources for this video. So yeah, we're done with the first part. Now let's talk about the second part of the application stage, which is the cover letter. Now, I won't really go deep into it because I know for RBC, you don't really require a cover letter, but I would suggest that you put a cover letter with every single job that you apply to. Now, I'll just talk for like 5 minutes about what a cover letter is. I'm not writing anything here. I'm just talking about it because I don't have to go into too much detail like I did with the resume. Cover letter is pretty straightforward. I'll just give you a brief of what it is, why we use cover letters, and why you should use a cover letter, right? So let's talk about it. What is a cover letter? I have attached a resume. Why do I need a cover letter, right? So cover letter is just like a message, you could say, that you send to your recruiter for them to see and get to know you better. Because resume is probably like 1 page, 2 page. I'm also going to talk about the 1 page versus 2 page resume after in this video, but hang on. So yeah, so cover letter is just like a personal note or a message that you send to the recruiter so that they get to know you better. They get to know your personality better, your experience better than from a resume. They usually go to the cover letter if they're satisfied with your resume and they're looking into going further with your application. So it doesn't really matter in the first round where they're just scanning through your resume because they don't have enough time to look at your cover letter anyways. But if you make it through that first, the scan, they would look at your cover letter, and that could make a lot of difference and make you stand out from your competitors, basically. Now, how does a cover letter do that? How do you structure a cover letter? You basically start off with an introduction stating who you are, like what are you passionate about, what are the things that you're experienced in, why are you applying to that job, basically. Like all of this stuff is things that you cover in your letter. So your question might be that, okay, we have all of that on my resume, why do I need it? Once again, isn't that redundant? Now that is a good question, and that is why you put stuff that you haven't put on your resume. Now, what I mean by that is that you go into a bit more detail in your cover letter. So, for example, if I'm applying for a Python developer, of course I have Python on my resume. Even if I have some other work experience, I do have Python that they're stating that, oh, I use Python doing this and that. But my cover letter would be more of like, I'm very enthusiastic about Python. I've volunteered for, or like I've contributed to this open source project regarding Python, and I've helped my previous team. I've helped a lot of teams in my previous job learn Python. I've delivered talks and stuff like that. So basically, things that you didn't have enough space to put on your resume, but they just get to know you better, how you work and stuff. Like, you could also put soft skills. You could also say that I'm experienced with public speaking. I've given a lot of talks. I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm able to. I think my strength is to be able to communicate hard concepts to different people in an easy manner. Could be a lot of stuff. So cover letter is just like an extension to your resume. So it just gives more weight to your application. Just lets them know who you are as a person, basically. So yeah, that's it for the cover letter. Won't talk too much about it. Next topic we have is 2-page versus 1-page resume. Probably the biggest question. I've researched a lot about this. I've talked to a lot of people about that. This question is basically like, I'm starting programming. What's the best programming language? It's like that. There isn't really an answer to this. Basically, it depends on you, right? I'd say I applied using a 1-page resume. Try to make it a 1-page resume is what I'd say, but only make it 2 pages if you think you have relevant stuff for 2 pages. Don't just make it 2 pages just to show the recruiters that you know a lot of stuff, because that doesn't really rub them off in the right way, because it is evident, it is really, really clear that you're just trying to extend your resume and make it longer, but you don't really have that much stuff on it. So for the 1-page versus 2-page, I'd say that if you think you have a lot of stuff, go to 2 pages, but try to keep it to 1 page, just because it's easier for the recruiters to go through it, and it's faster, it's way more organized, just one sheet, right? It's easier for them to be able to go through it. So again, I applied using a 1-page resume. It worked for me. Now my resume is 2 pages. Haven't really applied to any job using this, but I'm super confident about it because now I have work experience that I didn't have before, and now I have some other experiences that I didn't have before. So I personally thought that it is worth it to extend it to 2 pages. But if you think you don't have enough stuff, don't just make the font size bigger just to make it 2 pages. Try to keep it to 1 page. Try to keep it as short and concise as possible, and that will be beneficial. Yes. So that's one question. One other question that a lot of people usually ask is that, does the format of the resume matter? Does it matter if I put education at the end? Does it matter if I put like the job experience towards the end? My answer to that would be yes, it matters. It matters because, again, you need to be able to get in the eyes of the recruiter. You need to, if they're looking at your resume, they only have maybe 5 or 6 seconds to look at it. You need to make sure that you are getting all the points across, you're getting your experience across, your education across in the most efficient way possible. So it does matter. Some small details don't matter, like if you put technical skills over projects or under projects. So this doesn't matter that much, but I'd say 3-4 things matter. So number 1, always start off with your name, links, and like all the contact information. Number 2 should always be education. Number 3 should preferably be work experience. If you don't have it, it's fine. And then your extra initiative or extracurricular should always be at the end. These are some things that actually make a difference. Third question would be about ATS. Now, a lot of people won't know what ATS is. I'll tell you guys what ATS is. ATS is something that has rejected me so many times when I didn't have a good resume. So ATS is, I forgot what it stands for, it doesn't even matter. It is basically like a system that filters out resumes. So assume that I'm the CEO of a big company, and I'm hiring people for a specific role. Let's assume I got 1,000 resumes. Now, companies like Google they get like thousands of resumes every day, but they don't really have enough time to go through every single one of them, read every one of them, right? So what an ATS does is that it filters out the resumes that are relevant to that particular job description. How does it do that, right? Basically, it is tailored to that job description, so it knows what words to look for, it knows what technologies, like a tech stack, to look for. So it searches through your resume looking at that, and this is all automated. This is a computer software that's doing that. So it looks through all of your resume, like whatever you've specified there, and then it filters out your resume. So the recruiters only get the ones that have been filtered through ATS. How do you clear ATS, right? Whenever you create your resume, and this is a please do not apply to different jobs using the same resume. This is going to backfire. I did that at the start. It looks like you've applied to 100 jobs. That's very good, but they're all useless, believe me. You have to tailor all your resumes to that job description, and that is a must. It is non-negotiable. Like, just look at that resume. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So let's assume you're applying for a web developer. The resume says that, okay, this person should have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, I know people don't really use that these days, but okay, let's say React.js, right? You need to know React.js, you need to know Node.js, you need to know like Express.js, MongoDB, like all of this stuff, right? Your resume, on the other hand, is just like your general resume. Maybe it has all of this stuff, but it's just like a general resume, right? Now, your chances would be a lot less compared to if you create a tailored resume. Now, what I mean by a tailored resume is that you should be able to, like, if a recruiter looks at your resume, they should know that, okay, this is meant for this job. This is not just a general resume. It kind of gives off that vibe of being customized. Now, what I mean by that is when you look at a resume that applies for this web development job in particular, and it's not a general resume, if you would see that it's only talking about web development, that it's not talking about machine learning. It's not saying that, oh, I know TensorFlow, because bro, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter for this job, right? Because they don't care if you know TensorFlow or not. You are not going to work on TensorFlow at this job. They only care about whether you know web development stuff or not. And I know this is hard, because this was hard for me, but you need to remove the stuff that is not relevant. And I felt so bad in removing stuff, because as students, we don't really have that much things on our plate anyways, but it is better to just, put whatever's relevant so that it's easier for their eyes and they see that, okay, this guy has everything that we needed. And I'm not saying that like omit everything. Maybe you feel like putting machine learning in there, just put it. But then again, it should not look like it is a machine learning dominant resume and there's a bit of web development on the side. It should be tailored. Now, again, vice versa. If you're applying for a machine learning job, it shouldn't look like, oh, okay, so he says React, Node.js, Express.js, all of this stuff. Oh, he has like a lot of front-end libraries and stuff like that. And now he has, TensorFlow. Now, this is a web development dominant resume. You could put in web development, but focus more on machine learning, saying that, okay, so that it gives off an impression like, okay, this guy has applied to machine learning post, but he knows web development as well, if you get what I mean, right? So you need to take care of all of that in order to pass ATS. And not only ATS, even if your resumes are being checked manually, these things would help a lot, because they know that you've spent time in it, you've paid attention to detail, and you spend time reading that job description, and you're clear as to what you're looking for. So that is pretty much it for today's video. I think I've covered a lot of stuff. I've covered a lot of points, a lot of FAQs that a lot of people have. I might have missed stuff as well because again, there's no script to my videos. It's just on the spot. It's just ad hoc. I might have missed a lot, I feel like, but I don't really recall anything at this moment. So if you have any doubts, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn personally. I could, even if you want to book a one-on-one with me or have a coffee chat, I'm down. Just text me. Just let me know whatever time works for you. I'll tell you what time works for me, and we can figure something out and sit together if you want. If you want some other sort of help with anything, I could be anything. I can help you out if you want. And if I missed anything in this video, just let me know in the comment section. I'll reply to you in the comments with as detailed as I with an answer that's as detailed as I can be, so that you feel like it was a video and not just a text DM reply. I'll try to keep it as detailed as I possibly could. But yeah, so that was the first part, and we're just left with the last part of the Co-op Quest video series, which is the interview prep part, how to give interviews, the post-application stage basically, and I'm super excited for that as well. Yeah, have a great day, and I hope this was beneficial. If you liked it, I'd appreciate a like. Goodbye.